Welcome back to ABC GH Spoilers channel. Today we'll learn about the intriguing possibility of Morgan Corinthos making a dramatic return to Port Charles. The soap opera world is buzzing with speculation as subtle hints and not-so-subtle references have fans wondering if Sonny and Carly's presumed dead son might soon be walking the streets of Port Charles once again. The mysterious Soliski connection. In a recent development that has set the rumor mill into overdrive, viewers witnessed a tense exchange between Sonny Corinthos and his trusted associate Brick. Their conversation, laden with undertones of danger and mystery, centered around an enigmatic figure known only as Soliski. This shadowy character, accessible exclusively through the murky channels of the dark web, has established a base of operations in Toronto, Canada, just close enough to Port Charles to pose a credible threat, yet far enough to maintain a strategic distance. The timing of this revelation couldn't be more significant. With Sonny already navigating the treacherous waters of his deteriorating heart condition, this new threat emerges like a specter from the past, threatening to unravel the fragile peace he's managed to establish. Brick's intelligence suggests that Soliski may have been responsible for the bomb planted in Sonny's penthouse, an attack that put Michael Corinthos in grave danger and eerily mirrors the circumstances surrounding Morgan's presumed death years ago. What makes this situation particularly intriguing is Valentine Cassadine's connection to this mysterious figure. Despite Valentine providing the name Soliski, Sonny harbors suspicions about the Cassadine heir's true involvement. This web of suspicion and counter-suspicion creates a perfect storm of uncertainty, exactly the kind of environment where soap opera resurrections tend to flourish. The parallels between the current threat and Morgan's death cannot be overlooked. Both involve explosives, both target the Corinthos family, and both carry the hallmarks of a calculated attack rather than random violence. Could Soliski be connected to Morgan's past? Or perhaps, in a twist that would shake Port Charles to its core, could Soliski actually be Morgan himself, operating under a new identity? Sonny and Jason's Canadian mission. The revelation about Soliski has spurred Sonny into immediate action, despite Jason Morgan's evident concern about his boss's health and the wisdom of undertaking such a potentially dangerous mission. In a moment charged with determination and paternal fury, Sonny brandished his firearm with the unwavering declaration, "I won't allow him or anyone else to threaten my family again." This statement, delivered with the intensity that has become Sonny's trademark, carries layers of meaning that extend beyond the immediate threat. The emphasis on "again" suggests that Sonny is not just thinking about the recent bomb at his penthouse, but is mentally connecting this incident to past tragedies, most notably perhaps the loss of his son Morgan. Jason's reluctance to let Sonny embark on this mission speaks volumes about the current state of the Corinthos organization. Once the unflinching enforcer who would follow Sonny into any danger without question, Jason now finds himself in the position of cautioning restraint. This role reversal highlights how Sonny's grief over Morgan and his deteriorating health have potentially clouded his judgment, making him more reckless and unpredictable than ever before. The decision to travel to Toronto opens up a wealth of storytelling possibilities. Canada has historically served as a narrative limbo in the General Hospital universe, close enough to be accessible, yet outside the jurisdiction of Port Charles law enforcement. It's the perfect setting for a dramatic reunion, a shocking revelation, or a deadly confrontation. As Sonny and Jason prepare to cross the border, viewers are left wondering what or who they might find on the other side. The telling camera shot. In what many fans interpret as a deliberate clue planted by the show's directors, the camera lingered meaningfully on a photograph after Sonny and Jason's departure. This wasn't just any picture, it was a snapshot capturing Morgan and Michael Corinthos together, a frozen moment of brotherly camaraderie preserved in time. The decision to focus on this particular photograph featuring Brian Craig and Chad Duell in their respective roles cannot be dismissed as coincidental. In the language of soap operas, such camera work often serves as an anvil, an unmistakable hint dropped by the writers to foreshadow future storylines. The timing of this shot, immediately following a conversation about a mysterious threat with potential connections to Morgan's death, seems calculated to spark speculation among the viewership. This visual cue gains additional significance when considered alongside Chad Duell's recent departure from the show. With Michael's character currently absent from Port Charles, the spotlight on this particular photograph could be interpreted as the show's way of telegraphing which Corinthos' son might soon return to the canvas. The juxtaposition of the brothers in the photograph, coupled with the current narrative focus on Morgan's death, creates a compelling case for Morgan's potential resurrection. The photograph also serves as a poignant reminder of what Sonny has lost and what he might regain. In a show where family bonds form the emotional core of most storylines, the visual reminder of these two brothers stands as a powerful symbol of the fractured Corinthos family. If Morgan were to return, how would this affect the family dynamics? How would a resurrected Morgan interact with a potentially returning Michael? These questions hang tantalizingly in the air, inviting viewers to imagine the dramatic possibilities. Recent references to Morgan's fate. The photograph is far from the only recent reference to Morgan on the show. In a particularly heated confrontation that had viewers on the edge of their seats, Sonny directly accused Ava Jerome of responsibility for Morgan's death. This accusation, hurled in the heat of argument, serves multiple narrative purposes. It reminds viewers of the circumstances surrounding Morgan's presumed death. It keeps his memory alive in the current storyline, and it potentially sets the stage for a dramatic revelation that could exonerate Ava if Morgan is discovered to be alive. These repeated references to Morgan's fate, scattered strategically throughout recent episodes, create a pattern that soap opera veterans recognize as potential groundwork for a major character return. By keeping Morgan's memory fresh in the minds of both characters and viewers, the writers ensure that his potential resurrection would land with maximum emotional impact. The timing of these references also coincides with significant shifts in the show's character landscape. With Chad Duell's departure creating a void in the Corinthos family dynamic, the narrative space exists for another son to step into the spotlight. Between Michael and Morgan, the latter's return would offer more dramatic potential, given the presumption of his death and the years of grief his family has endured. A living Morgan would not simply be returning to Port Charles, he would be returning from the dead, bringing with him questions of where he's been, why he hasn't contacted his family, and who might have been involved in his disappearance. The WSB connection theory. Perhaps the most intriguing fan theory gaining traction comes courtesy of reporting by Michael Fairman TV, which suggests that Morgan's death might have been elaborately staged by none other than Brennan, potentially as part of a recruitment operation for the World Security Bureau, WSB. This theory posits that Morgan has spent the years since his death being trained as a WSB agent, operating in the shadows while his family mourned his loss. This speculation gains credibility when considered alongside Jocelyn Jax's current storyline. As Morgan's half-sister prepares for what appears to be her own journey into the world of international espionage and security, the narrative groundwork is being laid for a potential sibling reunion within the framework of the WSB. The parallels between their paths would create rich storytelling opportunities, allowing for both conflict and cooperation between the Corinthos siblings. The WSB has long served as a convenient plot device in the General Hospital universe, providing a plausible explanation for characters' disappearances and reappearances. Its global reach and secretive nature make it the perfect organization to have orchestrated Morgan's extraction from Port Charles and his subsequent training. If this theory proves correct, Morgan's return would not just be a family reunion, it would potentially place him at odds with his father's business interests, creating the kind of internal conflict that drives compelling soap opera narratives. This theory also offers a satisfying explanation for why Morgan would have allowed his family to believe he was dead for so many years. WSB protocols might have demanded complete separation from his former life, perhaps even suggesting that contact with his family would put them in danger. A Morgan who sacrificed his family relationships for their own protection fits neatly into the heroic archetype that soap operas often employ for returning characters. Morgan's history and impact. To fully appreciate the significance of Morgan's potential return, one must understand his place in the rich tapestry of Port Charles history. As the first biological child born to Sonny Corinthos and Carly Spencer, Morgan represents the foundation of their tumultuous relationship. His birth cemented their bond in ways that transcended their romantic entanglements, creating a permanent connection between two of the show's most dynamic characters. Throughout his years on screen, Morgan was portrayed by several actors, with Brian Cray's interpretation standing as the definitive version in the minds of many viewers. Craig brought depth and nuance to the character, particularly during storylines involving Morgan's bipolar disorder, a condition inherited from his father. This mental health narrative provided some of the character's most compelling moments, allowing Craig to showcase his range as an actor while addressing an important social issue. Morgan's presumed death in 2016 via car bombing sent shockwaves through Port Charles. The tragedy was compounded by the circumstances surrounding the explosion. Morgan had been in a fragile mental state, off his medication, and driving Ava's car, which had been targeted by a bomb meant for her. This perfect storm of misfortune and mistaken identity led to one of the most emotionally devastating deaths in recent General Hospital history. Despite his physical absence, Morgan's presence has continued to be felt through dream sequences and ghostly appearances. These supernatural visitations have kept Brian Craig connected to the show and have maintained Morgan's relevance in the ongoing narrative. They have also established a precedent for the character's continued importance to the story of Port Charles, making a potential permanent return feel like a natural progression rather than a contrived plot twist. The future possibility. If Morgan does indeed return to Port Charles, the storytelling possibilities are virtually endless. His reappearance would trigger a cascade of emotional reactions throughout the community, from his parents' overwhelming joy to the complicated feelings of those who might have played a role in his presumed death. Ava Jerome, long burdened by guilt over her actions that contributed to Morgan's mental state at the time of the explosion, would face a reckoning that could either redeem or further condemn her in the eyes of Port Charles society. A returned Morgan would also need to navigate the changed landscape of relationships in Port Charles. His former love interests have moved on with their lives, forming new connections and experiencing their own traumas and triumphs. How would he fit into this evolved social ecosystem? Would old flames reignite, or would Morgan forge entirely new connections? Perhaps most intriguingly, a resurrected Morgan would need to find his place within the Corinthos organization. With Sonny's health in decline and Michael's absence creating a power vacuum, Morgan could potentially step into a leadership role, but would his potential WSB training make him an ally or an adversary to his father's business interests? The tension between family loyalty and professional obligations could drive storylines for months or even years to come. As viewers eagerly await confirmation of these swirling rumors, one thing remains certain: the mere possibility of Morgan's return has injected fresh energy and speculation into the General Hospital fandom. Whether he emerges from the shadows as Soliski, returns as a trained WSB agent, or makes his presence known through some other means entirely, Morgan Corinthos remains a character whose story feels unfinished. And in the world of soap operas, unfinished stories have a way of finding their resolution when viewers least expect it. The lingering question now is not if Morgan will return, but when and what version of this beloved character will walk back into the lives of those who have mourned him for so long. As Sonny and Jason head to Toronto in pursuit of Soliski, viewers will be watching closely for any sign that the youngest Corinthos son might soon reclaim his place in the heart of Port Charles. Next, we will learn about the mysterious bombing investigation that has Port Charles on edge, and the surprising new suspect who may be behind it all. As Sonny and Jason close in on answers, a new player in town raises suspicions with his questionable motives and mysterious background. The enigmatic Ezra Bole, Port Charles' newest suspicious character. The political landscape of Port Charles has recently been shaken by the arrival of an intriguing new figure whose sudden emergence has raised eyebrows throughout the community. City Councilman Ezra Bole has wasted no time making his presence felt, particularly through his unconcealed animosity toward two of the town's most influential figures, Mayor Laura Collins and mob kingpin Sonny Corinthos. Ezra's apparent disdain for the unlikely friendship between Laura and Sonny has become a focal point of his early interactions in Port Charles. With each public appearance, he seems increasingly determined to drive a wedge between the respected mayor and the notorious crime boss. This fixation on their relationship has prompted speculation among viewers about his true motivations and whether they might extend beyond simple political posturing. What makes Ezra particularly fascinating as a character is the calculated nature of his political maneuvering. He has strategically aligned himself with Congressman Drew Quartermaine, establishing what appears to be a symbiotic relationship that benefits both men's ambitions. Observers have noted how Ezra seems to operate as Drew's devoted political lieutenant, always ready with supportive comments and strategic advice. This partnership has flourished with remarkable speed, suggesting either an extraordinary political chemistry or perhaps more intriguingly, a pre-existing connection that predates Ezra's arrival in Port Charles. The timing of Ezra's appearance in town cannot be overlooked. His arrival coincides suspiciously with the aftermath of the bombing at Sonny's penthouse, creating a narrative pattern that seasoned General Hospital viewers will recognize as a classic misdirection technique employed by the show's writers. By introducing Ezra as an overtly antagonistic character with clear anti-Sonny sentiments, the writers may be deliberately steering the audience away from considering him as the mastermind behind the explosion, setting the stage for a shocking revelation down the line. Ezra's polished exterior, the tailored suits, the practiced smile, the carefully modulated public speaking voice presents a stark contrast to the traditional adversaries Sonny has faced throughout his criminal career. Unlike the typical mob rivals or vengeful former associates who have targeted Sonny in the past, Ezra operates within the legitimate corridors of power, wielding influence through policy and public opinion rather than through violence and intimidation. This new type of antagonist presents a unique challenge for Sonny, who may find his usual methods of dealing with threats ineffective against someone who has positioned himself within the protective framework of local government. Unraveling Ezra's potential motives, a deep dive into possible backstories. The sudden appearance of Ezra Bole in Port Charles, combined with his immediate and intense focus on Sonny Corinthos, strongly suggests a personal vendetta that transcends ordinary political differences. The depth of his antipathy toward the mob boss hints at a shared history, one potentially rooted in tragedy and long-simmering resentment. One compelling theory gaining traction among viewers centers on Ezra potentially being the son or relative of a former rival crime family head eliminated by Sonny during his rise to power. The Zakara organization, the Jerome family, or even the long-defunct Alcazar cartel all represent possible connections that could explain Ezra's grudge. Perhaps as a child, Ezra witnessed Sonny's brutality firsthand, creating a traumatic memory that has fueled a lifelong mission of vengeance. This scenario would provide a rich narrative backdrop for Ezra's character, explaining both his hatred for Sonny and his decision to pursue a career in politics, possibly seeing it as a legitimate path to accumulate the power necessary to bring down his father's killer. Alternatively, Ezra might be connected to a lesser-known figure from Sonny's past, someone whose elimination was considered so inconsequential that Sonny himself may not even remember the incident. This would create a fascinating dynamic where Ezra harbors an all-consuming hatred for a man who doesn't even recall the act that destroyed Ezra's life. Such a scenario would align with General Hospital's tradition of exploring how violence creates ripple effects that return years later in unexpected ways. Another intriguing possibility is that Ezra's connection to Sonny might not be through organized crime at all, but rather through Sonny's complicated romantic history. Could Ezra be the previously unknown son of one of Sonny's former lovers? Perhaps a woman who suffered after her involvement with Sonny and raised her son to hate the man who had caused their family such pain? This would add a Shakespearean dimension to their conflict, with Ezra potentially being Sonny's own blood while simultaneously plotting his destruction. Regardless of the specific nature of their connection, what seems increasingly clear is that Ezra's arrival in Port Charles was not random. His position on the city council, his targeting of Sonny, and his alliance with Drew all suggest a carefully orchestrated plan years in the making. A plan that may have begun with the bombing of Sonny's penthouse and is now moving into its next phase. Drew Quartermain, unlikely bomber or unwitting pawn. Social media has been abuzz with theories regarding Drew Quartermain's potential involvement in the penthouse bombing, a speculation that initially seems far-fetched but warrants closer examination. As a former Navy SEAL with extensive military training, Drew possesses the technical knowledge required to handle sophisticated explosive devices. His position as a congressman further provides him with connections to government resources and classified technology, potentially including access to WSB-designed weaponry like the bomb used in Sonny's penthouse. However, Drew's character development over recent years makes him an unlikely candidate for such a direct and potentially lethal attack. His journey from Jason Morgan's mysterious twin to a respected businessman and now congressman has been marked by a consistent moral compass and a desire to distance himself from the violence that has defined much of the Quartermain-Morgan family history. Drew has worked diligently to establish his own identity separate from his twin brother's legacy as Sonny's enforcer, making a move against Sonny through such violent means seem like a dramatic reversal of his character's trajectory. What seems more plausible is that Drew may be an unwitting participant in Ezra's machinations. The congressman's recent alliance with the city councilman could be part of Ezra's larger strategy, positioning himself close to someone with connections to both the Quartermain family and, by extension, to Sonny's world. Drew's genuine desire to serve his constituents and improve Port Charles might make him vulnerable to manipulation by someone with a hidden agenda. The relationship between Drew and Ezra bears watching for subtle signs of manipulation. Is Ezra feeding Drew particular information about Sonny? Is he encouraging Drew to take political positions that would increase pressure on Sonny's operations? The dynamics of their interactions could provide viewers with clues about whether Drew is a co-conspirator or simply a chess piece in Ezra's larger game against Sonny. If Drew is indeed being manipulated, the revelation of Ezra's true intentions could set the stage for a dramatic realignment of alliances in Port Charles. Drew's reaction to learning he has been used as a pawn in a vendetta against his brother's closest associate would likely trigger a significant character development arc, potentially bringing the estranged brothers closer together as they unite against a common enemy. The WSB connection, high-tech weaponry, and government intrigue. The sophisticated nature of the explosive device used in Sonny's penthouse has introduced an intriguing element to the ongoing imagery. Identified as WSB World Security Bureau technology, this detail elevates the bombing from a typical mob hit to something with potentially international implications. The WSB's involvement, even if only through their technology, suggests connections to government agencies and access to resources far beyond those typically available to Sonny's usual adversaries. This WSB angle opens up fascinating possibilities regarding Ezra's background and connections. Despite his relatively modest position as a city councilman, Ezra may possess far more extensive connections to the world of international intelligence than his public persona suggests. Perhaps before entering local politics, Ezra served in some capacity with the WSB or a related agency, giving him both the knowledge of and access to their specialized weaponry. Alternatively, Ezra might be leveraging relationships with higher-ranking political figures to obtain such advanced technology. His apparent subservience to Drew could be a calculated front, masking connections to more powerful individuals in state or federal government, who have their own reasons for wanting to destabilize Sonny's operation in Port Charles. These unseen power brokers might view Sonny as an obstacle to larger plans for the Port Charles waterfront or other valuable assets under his protection. The WSB connection also raises questions about Anna Devane's potential future involvement in this storyline. As a former WSB agent with extensive knowledge of their operations and technology, Anna would be uniquely positioned to identify the origins of the explosive device and potentially trace it back to its source. Her involvement could add another layer of complexity to the investigation, particularly if the trail leads back to former colleagues or rivals from her intelligence career. The use of such sophisticated technology also suggests that whoever targeted Sonny is playing a long game. WSB explosives would not be easily obtained or deployed without significant planning and resources, indicating that the attack on Sonny's penthouse was not an impulsive act, but rather one component of a carefully orchestrated campaign against the mob boss. This level of preparation and access to resources makes Ezra an even more compelling suspect, as it aligns with his methodical approach to undermining Sonny's position in Port Charles. The hunt for Soliski, a critical turning point. The investigation into the bombing has led Sonny Corinthos and Jason Morgan to a pivotal confrontation with the mysterious figure known as Soliski. This encounter, which unfolded during the March 28 episode, represents a critical juncture in their quest to identify the mastermind behind the attack on Sonny's penthouse. Successfully cornering Soliski after what was presumably an intensive tracking operation demonstrates the effectiveness of Sonny and Jason's partnership, which continues to function with the precision and determination that has made them Port Charles's most formidable duo. However, locating Soliski may prove to be only the first challenge in a much more complex puzzle. As a professional operative with likely connections to international criminal networks, Soliski undoubtedly understands the value of client confidentiality in his line of work. His reluctance to reveal who hired him would stem not only from professional ethics, but also from self-preservation. In the world of contract bombings, informants rarely enjoy long lifespans. The interrogation of Soliski presents an opportunity for the show to explore the contrasting approaches of Sonny and Jason. Sonny, driven by the rage of a father whose son was nearly killed, might push for more aggressive questioning techniques, while Jason, the strategic enforcer, might advocate for a more calculated approach. This tension between immediate vengeance and strategic patience has defined their relationship for years and could create compelling drama as they attempt to extract information from their captive. What information Soliski does reveal could significantly reshape the investigation. Even if he refuses to directly name his employer, details about how he was contacted, how he was paid, or what specific instructions he was given could provide crucial clues. Perhaps he was hired through an intermediary with no knowledge of the ultimate client, creating another layer of separation between the bombing and its mastermind. Or maybe he can describe physical characteristics or behavioral patterns that might help identify who commissioned the attack. The confrontation with Soliski also raises the stakes for everyone involved. Once Sonny and Jason have made contact with him, the person who hired him would logically move to eliminate this potential liability. This could trigger a race against time, with Sonny and Jason needing to extract information before their captive becomes a target himself. Such a scenario would add urgency to their interrogation while potentially setting up a situation where they must protect someone who tried to kill Michael, a morally complex position that would test both men's principles. The aftermath of the penthouse bombing, Michael's recovery, and Sonny's quest for vengeance. The bombing at Sonny's penthouse has left devastating consequences in its wake, most notably the serious injury sustained by Michael Corinthos. Currently receiving specialized treatment at an exclusive burn clinic in Germany, Michael's physical recovery represents just one dimension of the bombing's aftermath. The psychological impact on the entire Corinthos family, particularly on Sonny, who must grapple with the knowledge that his lifestyle once again put his children in danger, creates a complex emotional landscape that drives the current storyline. Michael's absence from Port Charles creates a narrative void that amplifies the stakes of Sonny's investigation. With his son fighting for recovery thousands of miles away, Sonny's determination to identify and punish those responsible takes on an almost obsessive quality. This separation also allows the writers to focus on Sonny's vengeful pursuit while keeping Michael's condition as a looming concern that influences every decision Sonny makes. The choice of a German burn clinic as Michael's treatment location adds an international dimension to the storyline that could be further developed. Perhaps during Michael's recovery, he might encounter other patients or medical staff with connections to the broader canvas of Port Charles. This European setting could also potentially intersect with the WSB elements of the bombing investigation, creating unexpected connections between Michael's recovery and Sonny's quest for answers. For Sonny, the attack on his penthouse represents more than just another attempt on his life. It's a fundamental breach of the principles that have governed his criminal career. Sonny has always maintained certain boundaries, particularly regarding the separation between his business activities and his family life. The targeting of his home, resulting in the near-fatal injury of his son, violates these unwritten rules and demands a response that goes beyond his usual methods of handling threats. This violation explains why Sonny has personally joined Jason in tracking down Soliski rather than simply dispatching his enforcer to handle the situation. For Sonny, this has become deeply personal, a challenge not just to his authority as a mob boss, but to his identity as a father. His determination to find the person responsible reflects his need to restore both his sense of control over the situation and his ability to protect his family. As Sonny pursues this investigation, viewers are witnessing a character at a crossroads. The bombing has forced him to confront the eternal conflict between his role as Port Charles' most powerful criminal and his desire to be a protective father to his children. This tension has defined Sonny's character throughout his time on General Hospital, but the current crisis brings it into sharper focus than ever before, potentially setting the stage for significant character development as Sonny reevaluates the choices that have led to this moment. Conclusion: a web of suspicion and the road ahead. As the investigation into the penthouse bombing continues to unfold, viewers are presented with a complex web of potential suspects, each with their own possible motives and means. Ezra Bole's sudden appearance in Port Charles and his obvious animosity towards Sonny position him as a prime suspect, despite, or perhaps because of the obviousness of his disdain. His mysterious background, political connections, and calculated approach to undermining Sonny create a compelling case for his involvement. Meanwhile, the questioning of Soliski represents a critical juncture in the investigation, one that could either provide clarity or further complicate an already intricate mystery. The information he provides or refuses to provide will shape the direction of Sonny and Jason's pursuit in the coming weeks. Drew Quartermain's position in this unfolding drama remains ambiguous. While theories about his direct involvement seem inconsistent with his character development, his connection to Ezra and his access to government resources keep him peripherally linked to the investigation. Whether he emerges as an unwitting pawn or reveals unexpected depths remains to be seen. The sophisticated nature of the explosive device with its connections to the WSB introduces an element of international intrigue that elevates this storyline beyond a typical mob conflict. This aspect of the case could potentially draw in characters with intelligence backgrounds, expanding the scope of the investigation and introducing new alliances and conflicts. As this storyline continues to develop, viewers can anticipate a gradual unraveling of the mystery that will likely reveal layers of deception and unexpected connections. The revelation of who targeted Sonny's penthouse will inevitably trigger a chain reaction of consequences throughout Port Charles, reshaping relationships and potentially altering the power dynamics that have defined the city for years. In true General Hospital fashion, the resolution of this mystery will likely lead not to a tidy conclusion but to new complications and conflicts. The identity of the mastermind behind the bombing, when finally revealed, will open doors to fresh storylines exploring their motivations, their history with Sonny, and the ripple effects of their actions throughout the community of Port Charles. For now, as Sonny and Jason continue their relentless pursuit of answers, the citizens of Port Charles and the viewers at home remain vigilant, watching for clues and connections that might shed light on who dared to target the Corinthos family and why. In a town where secrets rarely stay buried and vengeance is a way of life, one thing is certain: justice, in whatever form it takes, is coming.